And now you have Rachel Zegler saying, oh, that 1937 movie, that's just, oh, it's tacky, it's weird, we're going to change all that. I mean, what a difference.
There is more to the crisis that Disney is experiencing than just the failure of a single film. A situation that was supposed to be a significant advancement for the company has now become a catastrophe, with key players being terminated, projects being scrapped, and critics turning their backs on the company. To answer your question, what happened to Snow White, and what does this imply for the future of Disney? Now, let's examine the entire story in detail. The dismantling of everything that the Walt Disney Company has constructed over the course of the last few years is currently one of the most shocking developments that has taken place at the company. The company, which once had the unwavering support of critics, fans, and loyalists, is now facing unprecedented backlash. And what's even more surprising is that these are the same people who had supported Disney's move toward more inclusive, progressive storytelling. On the other hand, something has changed. Those critics who were once considered to be Disney's most reliable allies have started to turn against the entire company. With the release of Snow White, the highly anticipated live-action remake from Disney, everything got started. However, rather than becoming a new cultural landmark, the film has instead become one of the most significant failures that the company has experienced in recent memory. The criticism is not limited to negative reviews. Rather, it encompasses an entire flood of criticism that is currently aimed at Disney's entire approach to filmmaking. It is a case study in how things can go horribly wrong for a major studio, and Snow White has become a case study in how things can go horribly wrong, from the casting choices to the handling of agendas to the poor quality of the movie. Now, let's talk about the most important thing, the movie itself. No, it's not just the debates that have surrounded its casting, its unique interpretation of the classic tale, or the political agendas that some critics have asserted are crammed into the film. Please put aside your concerns about politics for a second. Snow White is not a good movie. From the pacing, to the acting, to the writing, to the direction, everything about it is a complete and utter mess. In addition, this is not merely the opinion of a fan. Even Disney's most devoted supporters are leaving the company, feeling dissatisfied and frustrated. The movie was not able to capture the magic that Disney is famous for, and as a result, many people began to wonder if the studio had truly lost touch with the things that made its classics so beloved. But let's not just concentrate on the movie. The fallout from Snow White is now making its way into the leadership of Disney. Bob Iger, the CEO of Disney, who had returned to the company after a brief hiatus in an effort to restore the greatness of the company, is now facing a serious crisis of confidence. His leadership is being called into question, and he is taking drastic actions in an attempt to save face. In recent times, he has made a number of significant decisions, one of which was to dismiss the entire marketing team that was responsible for the disastrous promotion of Snow White. This group, which was responsible for the trailers, television spots, and other promotional materials for the film, was not successful in generating excitement for the film, and in some instances, it may have even made the situation even more disappointing. The poor reviews and the lack of fan engagement became too obvious to ignore, and Bob Iger knew he had to do something about it. As a result, he made a courageous move. He fired the marketing team. The purpose of this was, without a doubt, to disassociate Disney from the failure of the film and to shift blame onto those individuals who were supposed to make the movie appear appealing. In spite of the fact that firing the marketing team may have eliminated a potential scapegoat, the problem is that this does not resolve the underlying problem. The production of Snow White was a poorly executed project, and Disney made significant errors in both its production strategy and its promotional marketing approach. But here's the catch. The issues aren't limited to marketing. Bob Iger and the executives at Disney have also made the decision to sever ties with the creative minds behind Snow White, which includes the director Mark Webb and the writer Greta Gerwig. The decision to terminate their employment is not merely a passing remark. Rather, it is a significant action that may have major repercussions for Disney in the future. However, Gerwig's contract was terminated by Iger's team, which meant that she would no longer be able to write for a future Marvel film that would be centered around the X-Men. At the same time, Mark Webb, who had previously been involved in the Spider-Man franchise, was scheduled to collaborate on the writing of a significant Marvel project. There was also a cancellation of that, and Disney has now completely severed all ties with both of the creative professionals. It is abundantly clear that Disney does not wish to continue its association with these individuals, at least not after the failure of Snow White. There is still the question of whether or not this is a prudent choice, or whether it is merely another instance of scapegoating. Before we move on, let's take a more in-depth look at what all of this means for Disney's overall strategy. The actions that Bob Iger took in response to Snow White are similar to those that he took after the Acolyte series was a failure, which is a pattern that appears to be repeating itself. For the benefit of those who are not aware, The Acolyte was yet another project that Disney had high hopes for. However, when the series failed to connect with fans, Disney terminated the marketing team that was working on it, just as they did with Snow White. The fact that Disney, under Iger's leadership, appears to have a knee-jerk reaction to failure, blaming the team, cutting the budget, and moving on without addressing the deeper systemic issues that are contributing to these failures, is a sign that is cause for concern. However, the fact that Disney has let go of the marketing team, severed ties with the creatives, and even let go of animators who were involved in Snow White is not the only indication that the company is in damage control mode. Bob Iger's most recent cost-cutting measures are also having an effect on the studio's overall production strategy. Iger is advocating for a cost containment plan that will reduce budgets in areas that he considers to be unnecessary. These areas will be the first to suffer as a result of this plan. When it comes to the animators and artists who contributed to the production of Snow White, it is abundantly clear that Iger's primary objective is to save money, even if this means sacrificing the individuals who played an important role in the production of the film. How effective is this strategy, though? It is a gamble that Disney may not be able to afford for a considerable amount of time, and it does not end there. Disney is now contemplating the possibility of halting other live-action remakes that were planned to continue promoting diversity, equity, and inclusion DEI agendas. Projects such as Sword in the Stone, Hercules, and a new version of Alice in Wonderland, all of which were going to incorporate significant changes in casting and storylines, are now in jeopardy or are in the process of being taken into consideration. On these decisions, the board is split down the middle, and a significant portion of the uncertainty can be attributed to the fallout from Snow White. Although it is obvious that Disney is attempting to readjust, it is possible that the damage has already been done. Nevertheless, the most shocking turn of events in this story is probably the one that involves Rachel Zegler, who plays Snow White. There has been a lot of criticism directed at Zegler's performance, and it seems that the backlash has cost her a significant amount of money. Initially, she was scheduled to make appearances in a number of other Disney projects, such as the remake of Pirates of the Caribbean and the voice work for a new character in Toy Story 5. However, those projects have been canceled at this time, and it is becoming increasingly likely that Zegler's time at Disney is coming to an end. Despite the fact that Disney is attempting to distance itself from the entire Snow White production, including the cast and crew, it is difficult to ignore this fact. All of this raises the question, what does it all mean for Bob Iger and the future of Disney? There is a growing sense of disillusionment within the company, despite the fact that he is attempting to salvage his own image by making these swift moves. The idea that Disney will be able to solve its more fundamental problems by laying off employees, reducing budgets, and narrowing the scope of projects is becoming increasingly improbable. Instead, it appears as though Disney is making an effort to conceal its shortcomings. However, the reality is that the company is in dire need of a significant overhaul, a reassessment of its fundamental principles, its creative direction, and its dedication to the art of storytelling. The question now is, where do we go from here? Will the actions taken by Bob Iger to terminate creatives and scrap projects be enough to repair the damage caused by Snow White? Or will Disney find itself in an even more severe predicament? It will be necessary for us to wait and see, but one thing is certain. Snow White has revealed the weaknesses in Disney's defenses, and it will take more than just firing employees to fix them. What are your thoughts on the actions that Bob Iger has taken? Do they represent a step in the right direction, or are they merely another way for Disney to avoid taking responsibility for the failures it has experienced? I would appreciate it if you could share your thoughts with me in the comments section below. If you have found this in-depth look into the current crisis that Disney is facing, please make sure to click the like button to show your support. It is imperative that you remember to subscribe to the channel in order to ensure that you are always aware of all the most recent updates and developments. Despite the fact that this is only the beginning of what appears to be a significant turning point for Disney, I will be here to follow every twist and turn as it unfolds. Believe me, this is going to be an exciting ride, and we haven't even begun to scratch the surface of what's going on behind the scenes. Don't forget to fasten your seatbelts and stay tuned, because there is a lot more coming your way.